Gilbert. You might be being a bit kind there with 10 years, maybe not wanting to admit how old we're getting. But real pleasure to be here. Really, what a great group of silver companies you have today. And I think it's interesting to point out the spectrum of silver companies you've got here from, us, a very early stage explorer, probably the smallest of the group that you've got here today, through to production, your production story. So we fit at the very front end of that, the exploration stage. So we hope to be where these peer companies that we saw today are in a few years, and I think we've got an excellent shot at that with our project base. We're, as you said, exploring in the Yukon. We've got two projects there that we've been working on over the last few years. One is our Haldane project, was a wholly owned project that we're exploring with our own funds, but we've also got another project that we've partnered with Coeur Mining, obviously one of the biggest silver producers in North America. And why should we look at a company like Silver North? I think, the previous speakers, Peter included, have touched on the silver market very well. I think we know that that strong and growing industrial demand is going to provide a backdrop for companies like ours, for not just the short term, but for the longer term as well. I think it's important to note we are focused on silver exploration in Canada, and we're working or partnered with, or we're working right next to or partnered with two of North America's largest silver producers. So I think it just says a little bit about the quality of the jurisdictions we're working in, the camps, the silver camps that we're working in. These are largely controlled by Hecla and Coeur, so two big partners and neighbors. And I think probably the real driver for us, and where the excitement lies for our investors, is that we have these two high-grade silver projects that are at the early stages of the discovery curve. So why does the discovery curve matter? Well, we know that when discoveries are made in this business, you're adding, a number of millions of ounces of silver reserve or resource, whether it be inferred or indicated, to over the timeline of exploration. You're adding a tremendous amount of value to a company. And as you can see on this graph here, which is kind of taken from Pierre Lassonde's Lassonde curve, and just adapted more for what I think the reality is. You can see we sit here just on this sort of flat line. When a discovery is made, and I think some of our previous speakers here today, their companies have exhibited this behavior themselves in their discoveries, you get an addition of a tremendous amount of value, but also the speculation that goes on around that. And that's what really drives prices. So when somebody asks me what's been driving Silver North's exploration, valuation in the market lately, I say it's really just interest in our project, maybe the recognition of what we are on to and the potential for that, but we haven't really seen that massive addition of value and speculation to go along with that. And I think when you can time that with a silver bull market as we're in now, I think that upward momentum can go even further and add a tremendous amount of value, be very, very valuable for investors in companies like ours. So I think we're a very good example of that, with this potential for great upward movement. So a little bit about our projects. Our key project, our flagship, is called Haldane. It's in the historic Keno District, in Keno Hill District, in central part of the Yukon Territory. This is over 100-year-old district. There's been many deposits. There's over 60 silver deposits that have been identified in this district, over 120 million ounces of silver produced. We have 3 new vein discoveries here on our Haldane project that it inhabits the west end of the district, and that's from 16 drill holes total. So a tremendous success rate. We're hitting on most of our holes, which is really giving us the ability to show potential to add tremendous amount of value here at this project. Our second project is called Tim. This is a project down in the southern part of the Yukon Territory where Coeur is our partner. Coeur is developing the Silvertip CRD district. This is a really unrecognized kind of running under the radar screen district. Coeur's been doing a lot of work here, tripled their resource base over the last few years, and they're also exploring on our Tim, which is about 19 kilometers away from their Silvertip mine project, where they hope to add to that resource base. They completed a drill program in 2024. We're just getting the data in from that now. We hope to have that out in the next few weeks. So just looking at Mount Haldane, what's really significant here, I think, is the fact that when you look at the Yukon, often projects are remote. You have to fly either plane or helicopter to access projects. Not our case. We are located right in the Keno District. We have road access right into the area of drilling. We have power lines that come within a couple kilometers of the property. And what's really special from our perspective is that we have numerous targets that are Keno style veins. These are the exact same style of mineralization that Hecla is mining right next door. We've got a number of these targets. Some have had historic production on them dating back to the early 1900s. But we also have great potential to find new deposits here, which we've outlined with the 16 drill holes we've done to date, where we've hit on over 75% of those holes and discovered 3 brand new vein zones. And that's really important with over 12 kilometers of vein to explore, and we've explored less than a kilometer of that. There's really good potential here for us to not only build on what's been found to date, but actually find more new vein deposits here in this part of the Keno District. So our last year, our program in 2024, we discovered a new zone called the Main Fault, a bit of a game changer for us. I'll get into a bit of that later. And I think as we start to unlock what the Main Fault might host, people are starting to understand what Haldane really could be for us. So here's the location of the Haldane project. You can see the Silver Trail Highway that leads up to Keno City and where most of the processing facilities that Hecla uses at their Keno Hill mining operation. Notice the grade here. This is 1,137 grams per ton silver is the average production grade of the 220 million ounces that's been produced in the last 100 and so years at Keno. So very high grade. That's just silver. That's not a silver equivalent. That's just the silver vein or silver grade. And this is a really active district. There's new gold exploration that's gone in this district as well. So it's a really busy area of the Yukon. And I think that just lends credence to how well endowed this area is and what its potential may be. I'll go light on the geology here, other than to point out that if you're looking for Keno deposits, you need to be in the same rocks and look for the same style of mineralization. And that for us is this light blue or blue-gray unit that runs through the center of the Keno District. And you can also see we have a good exposure of that at our end of the district. Because of Haldane's location being on the west side of the district, it's largely been ignored. And so this is the reason, and it was so far from the processing facilities back in the early 1900s, it's largely been ignored. And it's only been in the last, say, 10 years that groups like us have been looking at Haldane. And as I said, it's only been in the last few years that these new discoveries have been made. So identical geological setting, which is obviously really important when you're looking for more Keno style veins. Here's just an example of some of the structures. One of our new discoveries was here on this west fault. It was a blind discovery. There's no mineralization on surface at that west fault target. The previous operator drilled into the west fault trying to hit this main fault target and found some lower grade mineralization. didn't really think much of it. We went back in, drilled some holes deeper, and were able to identify some very high grade and thick veins in the neighborhood of almost 9 meters of 365 grams per ton silver, with other intersections on other parts of that vein that were over a meter of 1,300 grams per ton silver. Silver grades up into the 2000s as well, and the 3000s over a meter. So very high grade. We followed that up last year with drilling the main fault target itself, and this is where we had a bit of the game changer. And here's just a little bit of the lay of the land here, looking down what we call the Bighorn Valley. You can see where some of the historical production has come from. You can see Middlecoff and Johnson, some very high grade production came out of there in the early 1900s, sort of 1917 to 1925 range. You can see where we're drilling, we're up more on the hillside here. These are some of the veins that the old timers wouldn't have found because they're largely buried. There's a lot of overburden here. We haven't had glaciation like they've had down in these valleys here that scraped away the old rotten material that covers the mineralization on most of the Haldane property. We've been able to hit this stuff deep, and you can see some of the results here. And like I said, that game changer at the main fault here, we hit 5.81 meters of 365 grams per ton silver, but this was over a much wider zone that's almost 30 meters wide. And we see 3 different veins in that width. And what we're seeing as we go to depth is that these veins are coming together into a wider envelope of mineralization, and they look to be getting stronger at depth. So why is this exciting? Well, as I said earlier, the West Fault had no mineralization exposed on surface, yet we were able to identify so far a 100 meter by 90 meter panel of mineralization that's averaging over 3 to 500 grams per ton silver, likely in that range. At the main fault, we actually see mineralization on surface. So we're kind of able to say, okay, there's probably 300 meters of strike to this thing. And if we start to drill it out on 50-meter fences, we can actually see the potential for an average Keno District size silver deposit here. We've only got 2 holes into it, so we can't say that for sure. But if things hang together like what we've been seeing in drilling so far, that's really exciting. And as you can see from the surface results here, they're not all that high grade. 151 grams over 7 meters on surface. There's another one that's in the neighborhood of 200 grams. This is typical. We see that on surface, the grades are somewhat muted. When we step into these things at depth, we hit much higher grade mineralization. And as we've shown here, we're getting 365 grams per ton silver. In fact, we can get one of our higher grades of this intersection of 2024 drilling was almost 2 meters of 1,088 grams per ton silver. So nice high grade mineralization, looks to be getting stronger at depth. And that's what really has us excited here, is that now we can see a pathway to sort of that average size, call it 30 million ounce silver deposit here, if things hang together the way we think. So our plans for our next programs would be to step out at main fault here. It's shallower drilling, it's easier drilling. We can see that coming together much faster than some of the other targets on the property. And I think as we market this to the outside world, I think people are starting to recognize that as well, and we're seeing some positive reflection on that outcome. Just a cross section here, you can see on the right hand side these 3 veins coming through. You can see this coalescing into a larger, stronger zone at depth. So obviously, following this down to depth would be one of the directions we really want to follow up on. So just to summarize Haldane, we're really, really excited about the success we're having there. We've got main fault, our highest priority target, but we've got West Fault and Bighorn, 2 other silver targets that we've made new discoveries in the last few years on. So we have potential for multiple Keno-style veins here. There's other targets with high-grade silver as well, Middlecoff and Johnson, which we haven't effectively followed up on yet to date. So we feel we're really just scratching the surface here at Haldane and really have potential to start building out um, a group of deposits that are really going to catch the eye of our neighbor Hecla, who is mining these deposits just down the road from us. And I think really that's the end game here, is that they've got the infrastructure in place. We would be an obvious target for them should we start to put together some meaningful silver deposits here. The second project we have is called TIM. This is option to Coeur Mining. We'll spend $3.5 million over 5 years, make cash payments to us, and to get 51. They can get it to an 80% interest by conducting a feasibility study in 8 years from the commencement of our agreement. Coeur's been a fantastic partner. They're the experts on this Silvertip area. They've been had great success building out their deposit, their resource profile at Silvertip itself. They're taking this knowledge and they're applying it to the rest of the district. And for us, what this means is we're getting their expertise on exploring this really under-recognized district. I don't think many people have really caught on to the fact that this could be a very, very significant silver district on the border of Yukon and British Columbia. They're taking that expertise and using it to explore on our TIM project, but they're also able to do it much more efficiently. With the resources they have on site at their mine, they're able to bring that to bear at a much more efficient cost than, say, we would ourselves. So it's really a two-pronged benefit for us.
Hi, Jason.
So they're looking
Jason, just a couple more minutes left. So if you'd like to wrap up to answer a few questions from the audience.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll just say one thing is that, this is their dollars going into basically adding another discovery into our portfolio. So when you think back to that first graph I showed, the Lassonde curve, the uptick, it's either one of these projects that can really drive that discovery. And I'll say that when you look at this type of deposit, just from what I know now, without seeing the drill data yet, we're still expecting that. They've got 7 of 12 key characteristics of this deposit that we've already identified. So I think we're well on down the road to finding a new CRD at TIM as well. And I'll leave it at that, Gilbert, and you can fire some questions at me.
Sure. And the first question coming from Jordan is that, so any other silver companies that you would compare yourself to, and what sets your company apart from them?
Yeah, I think there's another company, Metallic Silver, that's operating in our part of the world as well, that I think is a good comparison. But I think what separates us is just this two-pronged approach. We have these two projects that both have the potential for discovery. And I think that when you layer onto that, with 16 drill holes, we've made 3 new discoveries at Haldane. We've explored less than a kilometer of what we've identified so far as 12 kilometers of vein, cumulative vein that we can explore. I think it just adds up to a really strong discovery potential profile for us. And I think that's maybe you could add into there that we're not very well recognized yet because we are at the very earliest stages of exploration. I think that gives us a real advantage for some uptick as the market comes aware of what we're doing, and with increased in this market that we're in and more good results, I think that awareness just grows and that really drives share price performance.
There's another question saying retail currently hold over half of your shares. Do you expect the proportion to increase or decrease moving forward?
Oh, I think as this gets more recognized, I think you'll see more of the funds come in. We're a little too small for the funds right now. We do have some fund involvement, but we're with our market cap, which the numbers here are actually a little bit low on this chart because since I provided this to you last week, we closed our private placement for $1.3 million. So we've got money in the bank, and we've got about 61 million shares outstanding. So our market cap sits in the, we'll call it almost $8 million market range. That's a little low for a lot of these funds to get involved. So as we get this out and it starts to get recognized, I think you're going to see those funds come in. We've talked to a bunch of them. They're really interested in what we're doing. So as we grow, I think you'll see those groups come in, and that's probably where we'll get our biggest growth in that pie chart. There will be in that fund side of the.
Yeah, Jason, one last question here from the audience. He's curious, is there any existing silver mines still producing in the region?
Yes, so at Hecla, they're in production right now. They've got about 60 million ounces in reserve that they've been actively building on, really doing some great work there. But that mine, the Keno Hill mine, is in production. So that's obviously, something that's a great benefit to us when they need more mill feed. We're right next door. And then with Coeur at their Silvertip mine, they shut the mine down a few years ago because of they're having some problems with the mill. It was actually not able to recover the high grades of silver that they were getting. So they shut it down. They decided to do some exploration, see how big this thing was before they rebuilt it. And they've been really successful at it. So they're just waiting to sort of see what they got to wrap their arms around there to rebuild a mill. So both projects in the foreseeable future could have operating mines in the vicinity.